Today, President Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. And fingers crossed, everybody should have their fingers crossed that the 10-day pause in fighting will hold and continue. Because there are a couple of factors to be aware of here. I mean, on one side, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to it, but has said that Israeli forces will not be withdrawing from Lebanese territory. And on the other side, the Lebanese government doesn't actually have control over the militant group Hezbollah, which is the group that is primarily fighting Israel, I should say. Hezbollah itself has acknowledged the announcement of the ceasefire, but has not directly addressed whether it will abide by it, saying just that its actions would be, quote, based on how developments unfold, which is quite broad and quite vague. So stick a pin in that for a moment and certainly cross your fingers. Today, President Trump also announced a new round of potential peace talks with Iran. But for now, the U.S. will continue its blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, choking off Iran's ability to export oil. And meanwhile, tens of thousands of troops stationed in the Middle East are basically in a holding pattern as this is all transpiring. And the Trump administration clearly didn't exactly plan for this. Tonight, USA Today is reporting that some of the sailors and Marines on the USS Tripoli and other ships who are enforcing that blockade are, quote, hungry all the time, and published pictures of what they say are the skimpy meals they have been served. MS Now reached out for comment from the Pentagon, and so did USA Today. We didn't hear back, and neither did they. But those sailors and Marines are also said by the Defense Department to be ready to get back in the fight at any second if Iran won't make a deal. And today, this is what they heard their commander-in-chief tell reporters.
If there's no deal, would you be willing to extend the ceasefire, or will the fighting resume, Mr. President?
I would say the fighting. If there's no deal, fighting resume.
Now, that statement came from Trump just hours after his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, explained exactly what fighting resumes would look like. And yet again, Hegseth is threatening potential war crimes against Iranian civilian infrastructure, saying, quote, we are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, and on your energy industry. We'd rather not have to do it, but we're ready to go at the command of our president at the push of a button. Joining me now is Congressman Pat Ryan and Congressman Chris Deluzio, both U.S. veterans who have served our country in the Middle East and both members of the House Armed Services Committee. There's so many important things to ask you about. I just wanted to start with that report from USA Today. And just to reiterate, it's, again, a report about troops who are serving on the USS Tripoli, it's a warship basically tasked with enforcing Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and the USS Lincoln, one of 3 aircraft carriers deployed to the Middle East. They described in the story meals as a slab or scoop of mystery meat, a single tortilla, a handful of boiled carrots. There are also pictures included in the story. Troops are reportedly also telling reporters they're hungry all the time. I just wonder what your reaction is to that.
I mean, that goes to the basics of taking care of our troops who are being sent right now into harm's way. If we had an Armed Services Committee that had a spine, frankly, we'd be immediately getting answers to questions. Whether this is true, what's going on with our troops. Are they hungry? Are they being sent to go fight and serve while begging for food? It's a problem. It's the exact kind of thing we need oversight of in the Congress, and yet we've seen no willingness from the Republicans who run our committee and the counterpart in the Senate to do anything, to ask questions, to demand answers, to have folks come in and answer questions in front of us. It's a failure of oversight.
To even use their power of oversight to pull people in and ask them questions about this, which they certainly should. Even though Trump is taking credit for putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound he inflicted here with this ceasefire, we all, of course, should hope it sticks. I gave a few warnings about what could happen here, but where do you build from here? Where does this build from here? Because this is still not an end of the hostilities between the United States and Iran. I just mentioned there's 50,000 troops based in the Middle East, many of them hungry. They're still waiting to see what happens. What happens from here?
This goes back to the core problem. We've talked about this with you in weeks ago. There's still no clear definition of, yes, we're having tactical success with strikes and so on, but what is the strategic aim? How does this end? What does success look like? And when that hasn't been defined, then how could you possibly expect us to achieve it? So while sailors are literally short of food, and that reflects a clear lack of planning and preparation, they're getting extension orders. Folks from my district are just got orders extended till October, for example, which whatever Trump's saying and spouting, which changes minute by minute, the reality of the facts on the ground is they continue, the administration, to escalate, to send more sailors, more troops, more ships, more planes. And our enemy sees that. And I think, again, Trump is stuck in an escalatory cycle that he does not know how to get out of. And his primary concern is trying to tamp down financial markets, not actually develop a military strategy to win and get us out of there.
And we talked about that last night. The stock market just listens to what he says, not the events on the ground. That's crazy how it goes. Let me ask you about, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, too, when they were also threatening to go after civilian infrastructure and energy infrastructure, which is this sort of double speak that Secretary Hegseth uses around dual use. Talk to us about exactly what he's talking about, the danger of that, and also their strategy of kind of using the threat of what is considered a war crime as a means of, I guess, trying to get people back at the table.
Yeah, number one, guessing what Pete Hegseth is really thinking is a fool's errand, because who the heck knows the level of...
Please don't do that.
So I won't do that. But it's interesting. You hear him say this. He's using dual use to try to defend against what he then says in the next breath, which is threatening to attack clearly civilian infrastructure, which you cannot do under the law of armed conflict and American laws. Right? You cannot threaten to annihilate the Iranian people, as President Trump did, and then Pete Hegseth backed him up, reiterating those threats. So these folks are playing a dangerous game of even contemplating and threatening and saying the words out loud that they will attack civilians and civilian infrastructure. That's why I think he used that language to try to distract from what he then says in the next breath, which is to threaten the Iranian people, threaten their grid. Those are not military targets as we understand them. And so, again, that is the kind of threat that comes from the president. And the secretary's backing him up here. It's dangerous stuff.
And meanwhile, they are continue to purge the most senior military officers in the middle of a war, as I think a clear sign that anyone who doesn't put fealty to Trump ahead of their oath to the Constitution, which we've taken and take very seriously and all in uniform do, that's a very dangerous moment that we find ourselves in. I mean, they just fired a few weeks ago the most senior Army four-star General George, a true patriot. And we expect and fear those continue to happen.
With no explanation, by the way.
Yeah.
We still have no understanding of why he was fired. And by all accounts, a great general officer.
It's interesting. And I wanted to ask you about this. I wanted to just quote from, because today during a congressional hearing, Army Secretary Dan Driscoll praised General Randy George. Did you see this? I thought it was so interesting. The Army Chief of Staff, of course, who you just mentioned. I just want to play what he said, because, well, I have a take on it, but I want to know what you thought.
There is no person that has more respect for General George and his 42 years of service, his Purple Heart, his wife Patty, their grandkids, their kids. I adore them. And he was an amazing transformational leader. That being said, the civilian leadership, the design of our system is that they get to pick the leaders that they want, and we execute on those orders.
So I heard that a little bit. I mean, he works for Secretary Hegseth. It felt a little bit like a purposeful, gracefully stated dig. How'd you hear it?
Well, as a resident Army guy here, I'll gossip. It's not gossip. It's very serious.
We love gossip.
So,
go ahead.
Hegseth and Driscoll hate each other.
Yes, we know that.
And a lot of the concern is that General George's firing was about that turf battle. Literally in the middle of a shooting war where we've lost soldiers, every American's paying the price. They're settling bizarre personal scores about who's closer to Trump. And I think it's important to say, that is actually not true, what he said there. The long-standing precedent in this country is a clear, bright line between politicization and politics and the military. And they are testing this. They're beyond testing it. They're trying to destroy it, which makes all of us less safe. And that's something we've both been very focused on in the committee.